Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Atlantic 10 Insider Podcast. My name is Rob Dauster. I have with me today Jeff Goodman, and we have actual Atlantic 10 basketball games to talk about today. Jeff, how fired up are you? You got to be juiced.
I am juiced. I mean, I'll be even more juiced when teams start really playing people in college basketball. But I'm happy there's actual games that count right now, even though the matchups aren't exactly riveting across the country.
I will say this, the Atlantic 10, if we want to talk about interesting matchups and intriguing matchups on the first day of the college basketball season, the Atlantic 10 was involved in a lot of them, right? George Mason playing at Auburn. We had St. Louis hosting Murray State, which was about as interesting of a game as you were going to get. LaSalle played at Villanova, which was a Big Five rivalry game. We have an interview with Archie Miller coming up here later on in the pod, which was fairly unfortunate timing for that interview to end up being aired. But what was your biggest takeaway from week one, or from, I guess, the first set of games, Atlantic 10?
I mean, I think it was St. Louis, and Murray State has a completely different team. One returning scholarship player for new coach, or I don't know, not new old coach Steve Prohm with the Racers, but St. Louis just, man, they picked up exactly where we thought they would, right? And getting Perkins back, and Travis telling us on media day that the biggest thing for him was going to be what? Defense and role allocation. And I think he'll be able to keep people happy as long as they keep pounding teams like that. They'll be just fine.
Yeah, winning is the best way to keep egos in check, right? If you're not playing a lot of minutes, but you're on a team that has a chance to win a conference title, maybe make a run of the tournament, then I think people are going to be satisfied. And look, I after watching them play, I watched most of the first half of that game, and I think they have a chance to make a run, man. Like, look, Yuri Collins, 14 assists, 0 turnovers. You have Javonte Perkins, Javon Pickett, and Gibson Jimerson all could get you 20 on any given night. You have a guy in Francis Okoro that's just a monster inside. The Forrester kid played well. Fred Thatch is a glue guy, keeps everything together. What is the ceiling for this team, do you think?
I mean, listen, these days, who knows, right? I mean, with so much movement on so many teams, it's such an advantage for Travis Ford to know and coming out of the gates, it's going to help him so much, because you would think they're going to do well in the non-conference where so many other teams are trying to figure themselves out. For the most part, Travis knows his team. I mean, obviously, again, you got a big time player coming back after missing a year, but he knows what he has. So as long as they do what they're supposed to in the non-conference, and then they roll through the league, along with Dayton, which we think will happen, that those two could separate themselves a little bit. You're talking about a team that could get a really good seed in the NCAA tournament. And then, second weekend, get to the second weekend, and then anything can happen.
Yep. One of the keys to being able to get a good seed is a good performance in the non-conference schedule. And I think you can make the argument that things went fairly well for the A-10 as a whole through the first round of games for everyone. They went 12-3. George Mason lost at Auburn. No shame in that. LaSalle lost at Villanova. No shame in that. Those are not bad losses. In fact, those are probably going to be wins that help computer profile numbers, because they didn't look terrible in them. Quinnipiac beat Rhode Island at home, which, it's going to happen. URI is in a little bit of a rebuilding mode this season. Archie's going to tell us a little bit about that coming up. Dayton, a team that I think probably needs to have some big wins here at some point, played a Division I transitional school, Lindenwood. Their schedule starts to heat up here coming up soon. They have SMU on Friday. They are at Villanova on Tuesday, and then they play Wisconsin in. I am blanking on which event that they are in at the moment, but it's one of those MTV. So they'll play Wisconsin next Thursday, which is when things really kick off for Dayton's schedule. The other big storyline I thought was Loyola surviving a pretty impressive Fairleigh Dickinson team at home. They got the buzzer beating. They went 94 feet in 1.8 seconds to force overtime, and ended up beating Fairleigh Dickinson in overtime. How big is that for Loyola to get that win?
I mean, it's just big not to get that loss. I guess that's a better way of putting it, more than anything.
I mean, you're right. You're not wrong.
Right. I mean, you need to win the games you're supposed to win. If you're Drew Valentine getting in a new league this year, with a fairly new team. And, to me, Sheldon, great. I mean, that play call at the end of regulation was ridiculous. The pass.
Yeah. Can we give a shout out to Tom Welch?
It was Leitner-esque.
Yeah, the hook shot pass though, like that was amazing. I don't know if I've ever seen that before out of a player like that.
So I think again they got a long way to go, but obviously a great addition to the league with a young rising star type coach and Drew Valentine, who's trying to figure a new team out. Last year was he lost a huge piece, but he knew what he had. He knew what he had. Again, he's going to try to figure this thing out, and they're going to have their ups and downs. And to me, if they finish in the top 5 in the A-10, that's a good year for Drew.
Yeah, I agree. So I think the only other team that we probably need to touch on here that had a game that was worth mentioning was George Mason at Auburn. I watched that entire game. I thought Kimmy put together a really smart game plan. I thought they did a good job kind of keeping Auburn in check. They ran into a team that, one, could take advantage of the fact that George Mason's question marks are at the point, and two, a team that just had so much more size and physicality inside. Like, look, there's two questions we have about George Mason. It's point guard play, and it's their ability to get rebounds on the interior. And they ran into a team that could exploit both of those mismatches. I came out of that game saying, yeah, you know what? I think George Mason might be a little bit better than I thought they were going to be.
I mean, you're not going into Auburn and again, you're playing with house money there. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to win that game. You kept it close enough. You never really put any true game pressure on them, right? Where they start to get worried. But you kept it close enough that Kimmy, if you can go into Auburn and kind of at least play with them and not get embarrassed, you have a chance. And again, they didn't have a great offensive outing, but you're going up against a defense that, is explosive, and they're older guards. They're old, tough guards. That is hard to play against when you're trying to figure out your point guard situation.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I entirely agree.
By the way, we cannot move on to the next one without giving our boy, your new guy, Keith Dambrot, some props.
Well, I was going to. We have weekly awards, and we're going to get into that. So I promise you, we're gonna.
I know you're like
in a second. Yes,
I have gotten you to where you are a huge Keith Dambrot fan now. You never met Keith Dambrot, and now where does he fit?
So okay, let's hold on. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in 1 second. We're going to do a weekly awards every week that we do this podcast. So we'll start with Player of the Week. I kind of already told you who my team of the week is, but we'll start with Player of the Week. Goodman, who is your Player of the Week this week?
I mean, when you get 14 assists and you don't commit a turnover, like, come on, man. Like, that's insane. Against, like, Murray State, they're not a non-D1. They're not a low, So Yuri Collins, for me, is Player of the Week, and I don't know how you can even have anybody else in the equation.
I have somebody else in the equation. I already mentioned him. Tom Welch. Tom Welch had 15 points and 15 rebounds and made an 80-foot pass that 90% of the quarterbacks in the NFL wouldn't be able to make on the money. Where only Sheldon Edwards would be able to catch it, where he could turn around and hit a shot that forced overtime. Hey, look, if it comes down to it and Loyola is on the bubble this season and they get a bid to the tournament, Tom Welch got them that bid to the tournament. Tom Welch, look, hey, Drew Valentine, I know you listen to this. Take care of him, my man. Set him up, get him some NIL money, get him like a sponsorship with Lou Malnati's or something.
When I get to Chicago this year, and hopefully I will at some point, it might be February, but I'm going to go down for practice, and I'm going to see if Tom Welch can throw that pass to me. We're going to try to reenact that pass. I'm not going to make the shot.
No, I'm
not going to make the shot. I will catch the pass.
Here's what I want to see. I want to see you try to make that pass. I've seen you throw.
I can make that pass.
You're not a man that's built for throwing. Let's just put it like
I absolutely can make that pass. We're gonna do it. We're gonna roll reversal.
You have a new alarm. All right. Team of the week. I'm gonna go first because I think it's got to be Duquesne, coming off of a season where they went 1-16 in Atlantic 10 play, where I think they lost 11 of their 13 players. Like, they basically bring back 2 guys that were in the rotation last season. And I don't know how much expectation there was. I didn't have much expectation. I went into this game and I was like, what's a good idea? I'm going to bet on Montana. I'm going to bet on Travis Secure, and I'm going to bet on them on the money line going into Duquesne, going into Pittsburgh, and they lost by 28 in a game that was never, ever even close. Like, it wasn't even a sweat. There was never in doubt. So shout out to Duquesne. Shout out to Keith Danbra. You got 25 points out of Day Grant, who was a cool 6 for 6 from 3. Goodman. So very an impressive. And look, I know people don't necessarily associate the state of Montana with great basketball, but the Montana Grizzlies are a good basketball program that are consistently competitive in the Big Sky, where it's like them and Weber State and I think it's Utah Valley's. Like that is a good basketball conference, and Montana is a good mid-major basketball program, and Duquesne just beat the brakes off of them. So shout out to Keith Danbra out there, man.
I'm going a different direction. I'm going with a coach who brought back a grand total of 4 points and 2 rebounds from last year. They beat St. Francis, PA. I get it. People are going to say, well, they should, come on.
I wrote the NEC preview. St. Francis, PA, top 4 team in the NEC. They're not bad.
And again, anytime you have to revamp your entire roster, and literally your entire roster, like you get a win. I don't care who
again. Say the stat again.
It could be against you, me, Fana, Terrence Ogles, whatever. It doesn't matter. Kudos to Mark Schmidt, because you're that's a coach that could have played a non-D1 in his first game, and I would have said, you know what, I get it. And he didn't. He played a team that, like you said, is lower major, but picked in the top 4 or 5 in their league. That's dangerous when you're going in with so many new faces. But man, Schmitty finds a way, and they'll get better and better this year. We know that.
Mm-hmm. So it was a fun first week. I'm looking forward to some more competitive games, some more games against bigger programs, and a chance for the A-10 to really kind of put their stamp on the season, because I think it's something that needs to happen. And I know that I will be rooting for a lot of these programs. I want to see 4 or 5 teams from the A-10 get in. I think that they have. We didn't mention VCU. We're going to, beating up on a Manhattan team that just lost their head coach and another assistant, and their best player is, it is what it is. They're supposed to win that game. So we'll talk about them at a later date. But I do think there are 5 teams that have a very real chance to get into the tournament. All right, so let's get into that interview now with Archie Miller, and we will see you guys again next Thursday.
All right, welcome into another episode of the A-10 Insider, and I'm here in the lovely Ryan Center with Archie Miller. And first of all, what's it like? I mean, Narragansett compared to Bloomington, Indiana. I've been to both several times. I'll choose, and I know I shouldn't say this because of my daughter, but I'll take Narragansett.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Yeah. It was a good choice. Beautiful place to live. The great people. I think URI has a great brand in these parts, and it's an attractive place. But it's been really good transition. Excited to be here. More importantly, as we're on the cusp of the season, finally getting an opportunity to get back out there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you could only take so much of having to look at me and Fana and Dauster.
Yeah, it's not
over Zoom.
It's not as close as we are right now.
That's right. That's right.
The screen.
It's kind of interesting, right? We didn't really do this.
The screen kind of plays a role in the Zoom action, but I had a great time doing that stuff. I think that I've said this. I've been, pretty adamant about it. When you're in college basketball, you deal with a lot of different types of media. You deal with, live interviews. You deal with whatever, but I just thought that, in thinking moving forward, that being a part of that at the very beginning will be interested to see long term, because it's a very authentic group. Cares about the game of basketball, cares about the players, cares about the coaches. The amount of time that goes into a show was really cool to be a part of. But
you have a respect for us now.
I do.
Right?
I do.
Hey. I remember Sean.
A lot goes into that nighttime show.
No doubt. Well, first of all, we're up later than you because you're on the West Coast. So you and Sean had it easy. Yeah, I mean, if you were on East Coast, you might not have made it.
I mean, we'd be 1, 2 in the morning.
That's right. That's right.
On that call.
It was fun, though. I mean, listen, we had a blast. I knew you'd be back in after a year. I didn't know where, and I really didn't think it would be here. Yeah. I didn't think it'd be 2 hours away from where I live at URI. I felt like this league certainly, and we talked about it a little bit when I was up in Tucson last January, you and your brother, the league was probably the perfect place for you because of the success you had at Dayton. How much does that help you, or has it just been long enough that the league is so different that it really doesn't help you that much coming back within the league?
I think, coming back into the league, you have to reassert yourself in terms of understanding who the other programs are now. They're not the same as they were, a while back. Some coaching changes, obviously, will change that. But the Atlantic 10 is a great league. Yeah. It's a great basketball league in great venues, in great basketball cities. It has a history of tremendous players. And I think that was the respect level that I always coming back to, and being able to be here at the University of Rhode Island, is that the talent that Rhode Island has attracted.
Yeah.
If you ask, a lot of people who know the game, who study the leagues, and over the course of time, a lot of people will tell you that sneaky great players have been brought here, not by one coach, but by half a dozen coaches.
Yeah. Over
20, 30, and 40 years in some cases. And the talent level that has been attracted here was something that amazed me after I got a chance to kind of understand it. The league is built on really good players, tough kids, it's got great coaches. And
that's where it fits you.
Yeah.
The job fits you, I think, because you were a guy, as a player, who got the most out of your ability, right? Yeah. You played hard. Your dad, right? He instilled that in you guys too, right? As a coach.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what Rhode Island basketball is about. Right, you better play hard.
I think it's a blue-collar place. Yeah. I think that the teams that have had success here has been, built around not only, talent, but tough guys, tough kids. They've had tough coaches. You start going back, Coach Penders, or Coach Skinner, Coach Herrick, Coach Barron, Danny, and then even Dave when he was here. Really good players, tough kids, and I think, if we get things going here in the right way, it'll have a lot to do with that type of kid.
I don't know if you'll say this, but I will. I mean, I think it's going to take some time here.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
If you're doing it right, I think everybody wants to hit the lightning in the bottle.
Well, especially with the portal.
Yeah, the portal tricks you a little bit. Everyone thinks that, the portal's,
right.
Just because you transfer, and doesn't mean that every kid who transfers is, when you start ranking transfers, it's when you start to really...
1 to 100, I do it, trust me.
When you start to rank the transfers,
no fun.
Not too long ago, transfer wasn't a good thing. Right. Now transfer's getting ranked.
Right.
It's a different time, but there's a different way to build a team now, and I do think that gives you more options. Each place is going to be different in terms of the circumstances they inherited, and I think we're going to be a byproduct this season of turnover, but inexperience.
Yep.
Not only is there inexperience with not knowing each other, there's a lot of new faces that haven't played a ton of ball. There's a lot of guys that are coming back into the frame that have, their roles weren't huge roles. Right. So we're going to have to figure that out, and it's going to be a fun thing to do with it. One thing I do know is, me as the coach, I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to sit here and
You're not going to get frustrated?
I'm not going to get frustrated.
Wait. I can't wait.
I'm not going to get frustrated and act as if it's supposed to happen right now.
Yeah.
Now, we'll be frustrated when we don't play well, we turn the ball over, things aren't going the right, but you have to do it the right way. You have to take your time. You have to be able to instill what you want to do. And along the way, if you worry more about those steps, I think, some of the other stuff will take care of itself.
Is that something you learned at Indiana? I mean, because obviously there, you want to do it so quickly, and there's so much pressure on you to do it quickly.
I think there's pressure to win everywhere. I think there's pressure to win everywhere.
Dayton, sure.
There's pressure to win at Dayton.
Yep.
There's pressure to win, wherever you're at, people want to win. Now, some people have a grander stage to, give you the feeling, of if you're doing well or you're doing not. But I think the one thing that's really, really important in all of it, though, is that if you're going to do it right, you have to be about what you say you want to be about every day. It can't be changing,
midway through.
Midway through, or you can't be looking to go. You have to really stick to your guns, and you have to be strong with that stuff, and you have to do a really good job of teaching your stuff, not only to your players but your staff.
I remember you and I talking throughout last season, and you were preparing for this without knowing where it was going to be.
It's hard.
Do you remember how you would call me asking about staff?
Well, I think part of what you're doing when you're out is You don't know when it's going to come. You don't know where you're going to go. You don't know really at the end of the day if that's what you want to do. But I will say this, the one thing you figure out quickly when you have some time to process is when I do go, or when that time comes, who do I want with me?
Right.
And if you don't have that lined up to the best of your ability,
Staff is important, isn't it?
yeah, man, I think there isn't a coach in the country that wouldn't tell you that, a lot of their success or failures, whatever it is, has to do with the guys that are around you every day and your coaching staff. And to me, that was the utmost importance, was to build a staff, to find the right opportunity. Now, if you get a job in California, you get a job in Rhode Island,
It's
a
different.
lot of it
Yeah.
can manipulate in terms of being able to change. But for me, it was a well thought out process on what type of guy I wanted to be with me if I didn't know him, or whatever. And I think we did a great job here. I have an amazing staff here, and I'm fortunate.
All right, so this podcast is a little bit different, right? It's more, it'll be about the players somewhat, but not as much about the team in this one. I want to ask you maybe a personal question. I don't know, but you left your family this year. I've got a daughter who's about the same age as your daughter.
Yep.
Your daughter's a senior in high school right now.
Yeah, she is.
She's going to LSU next year,
Yes.
big-time gymnast.
Yeah.
And you came out here and they stayed back in Tucson, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine doing that last year.
Never really would have thought in
Yeah.
a million years that we would all kind of say this is what we wanted to do. We kind of knew right away, though, that with a year left in high school, things going well, that transition, the most important transition was for our daughter, Leah, to be able to finish high school and then move on to college in the most seamless fashion that she could. When you're in my shoes, and my wife and I had our daughter born in Raleigh, North Carolina in 2004.
Okay.
So in 2006, we moved to Tempe, Arizona. It was 2.
Yeah.
In 2008, we moved to Columbus, Ohio, 3 and 4. And in 2009, you moved to Tucson, Arizona, 5 and 6. And then from there, you can become a head coach. You go to the University of Dayton. You go from 6 years old to 12. And then you go to Indiana. And then you go from 12 to... So really, when you really think about a child's life, or your kid's life, if you can control some stability, you should. And we have to get through about 4 or 5 months. My wife comes across the country. I mean, you couldn't pick a further route.
Tell people what the...
You can't pick a further route.
How they do
You're
it.
either going from Phoenix to Boston, Phoenix to Philly, Philly to Prague.
Well, Tucson to drive to Phoenix is about 2.
Yeah, Tucson, that drives, it's not an easy drive.
No,
either.
it's not.
It's not a fun drive. Or you're going to go from Atlanta across, but it's not an easy trip. And but they were very supportive of knowing that if this is the right opportunity for all of us and we want to get back in, that 6 to 8 months we'll make it happen and we'll go from there.
Just wait till your daughter gets to LSU next year.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this.
Scary,
my daughter being a freshman in Indiana right
stuff.
now. Yeah, being the father of a daughter in college these days is not easy. I'm sure it's not easy for being the father of a son, but I think there's different things.
No question.
Obviously, that you're worried about with a daughter on campus. We've both been on campuses enough.
It's funny. I've been on a college campus since 1997.
Yeah.
Went to NC State as a student athlete, and then have been on a college campus pretty much every year. And you deal with your own players every single day. And, but to be able to sit here and kind of think,
it's nerve-wracking.
Your daughter's going away, but LSU's a great place. The gymnastics program is incredible. And in fact,
that's good. That means you can visit.
Be a part of a team is also something I'm excited for her about. Is be a part of a team. Not going into the big world without some people on your side.
It is, like I said, it's great in a lot of ways. You'll enjoy so much of it, but you will also worry about everything, because Yeah. We were boys once.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably being a little bit further away will be this year.
Might help a little bit. Yeah,
it
probably does. It probably does.
I just don't think I don't think you ever get used to that type of stuff with your own kids. Though.
No, you don't. You don't. What is kind of the biggest thing that you've learned over the last few years that you'll take here?
I think the biggest thing, for me, is being able to be a better teacher and having a little bit more time and patience, not just with your own players, but your own staff. Before you can be really, really good, you have to believe in what you're doing. As a program, as a business, whatever you're doing, but as a coach, you can't just, say, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and here we go. There has to be reason why you believe in what you do. And I think teaching your coaches how you want them to do things, and then from your coaching staff being able to teach your team, and me being able to teach our team better, maybe the best you've ever done it, to me is where it's all going to start in terms of being able to really be able to get that belief going, where you understand completely and totally how and why you do things. And I don't think that's ever not been the case in terms of but I think, really, to be honest with you, doing it here the best that we can possibly do it is going to require me to be the best teacher that I've been. That has to go down to our staff, and our staff has to be able to do that as well.
Obviously for you to get a job now and a job that fits you was great, but for your brother to also get a job when we didn't think necessarily he would get one this quickly, with everything that was kind of still hanging over his head. What did that mean for you? Like when you knew he had one, whether it was going to be Xavier or South Carolina, and he had both options on the table at that point, my guess was
a long year.
Did you get emotional for him at all? Yeah. You don't get very emotional.
No, I wouldn't say emotional. It was a long year. I mean, when you really think about, you get let go. He gets let go.
The Miller family, it was not an easy year, and then you had to deal with me.
Yeah, we ended up together, out in there. I love Arizona. I love Arizona.
Well, that was crazy, too. You moved to Tucson, Arizona, where your brother had just been fired. It didn't add up, but you did it for your daughter, right?
It didn't make a lot of sense, but when you have a coaching job and you move a lot of different places, there's a lot of stops along the way that you would say, we had a great experience. We had a great experience when we were in Tucson with them. We had not only his family out there, but we had a lot of friends, and we were very familiar with the area, being over the course of 10 or 12 years going, visiting, doing stuff. So it was seamless in terms of understanding the layout. South Point Catholic is where Sean's boys went to school. It's a great situation in terms of some friends and family around town. And, when you're moving your daughter across the country, she's involved in gymnastics, you're trying to figure out how this is going to work, you're looking for help. Where are you going to get the most help is
your brother.
Probably more along the lines of where you can be set up and where you can have some help. And we knew it wasn't going to be a long-term place, but we loved the weather. We loved Arizona. I think, and part of it to me was, can I get as far away as possible where I just was?
Well, I thought he'd do the same. No one
can find you. In his case, he really didn't really need to.
No, they loved him there.
And obviously, it was a great situation. But I will say this, it was kind of an odd, getting started. How are we going to do this? What is this going to look like? To getting into a decent rhythm, finding some things that we like to do, spending time together, studying the game as much as anything. Had a lot of time to talk basketball. So it was therapeutic, I think, in those regards. And then all of a sudden, this coaching carousel thing, it starts to go.
Quickly.
Right?
Right, quick.
It starts to go. And the minute, like anything, it goes, you completely forget all the things you were just doing, all the people you were just spending time with, and it's just like, boom, a million miles an hour. So as I got up and running a little bit and started to talk about our situation here at the University of Rhode Island, it was really the only thing I was dealing with. It was the only person I would talk to was Thor at the time, our athletic director here, Thor Bajorn. Sean got up and running a little bit. And within
about the same time?
Within 24 hours, within 24 to 36 hours of crossing over from being together every single day, we never saw each other again. I honestly accepted the position, took the job, and flew to Rhode Island. He wasn't in Arizona when this happened. He was actually in discussions doing his own thing. When he returned back to Arizona, I was already gone. So. And
then you never saw each other again until the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
But you remember? Do you remember how you found out? Like, how did you tell each other? I mean, do you remember telling him when you took it, and do you remember getting a call from him?
I was, we were talking daily about schools and whatnot that called or you wanted to talk to, or, would you talk to this school? And, Sean was the most supportive to me when it came to Rhode Island.
The two of us were. Do you remember? Yeah. The two of us out in Tucson, both of us telling you Rhode Island would be a great spot for you.
Yeah, and I think my experience in the league and my thinking back to them, at the time was, you get off the airplane, the wind blows you over, and it's dark, and you're going to go in there, they're going to boo you.
Yeah.
The whole deal. But, those conversations quickly change once you start to get involved in a little bit more serious
When you said Thor was huge.
Only guy I talked to. Only guy I talked to. Thor didn't need a search firm. He didn't need a third party to kind of reach out. I mean, at the end of the day, when he made his decision, he blew a call into me like I was a buddy and said, "Hey, you interested?"
Smart.
It's easy that way. And, I probably, if Rhode Island didn't work out, I probably wouldn't be coaching again. Be working with Field of 68.
You're two at Field. Would you ask for a raise?
Field of 68.
You want to tell everybody? You want to tell everybody what you got?
What is 0 plus 0?
No, that's not true. That is not true.
What is 0
what did we
plus
get you?
0?
What did I send you?
I got a great Steeler jersey.
See?
I did get a great Steeler jersey. Yeah, I think I got
Did I get you the
Palomalo? I got the Palomalo
signed jersey.
Signed
Come on, that wasn't worth it?
It was definitely worth it.
Right?
It was definitely worth it.
I mean, we had fun. We did. We had a ton of fun last year. And I think you learned, I don't want to speak for you, but I think you learned a little bit, not that you and Sean weren't, I don't want to say you were media unfriendly, but you weren't, but I don't think you understood the value.
I would say more along the lines of this. There's always an advantage when you understand more about the other sides of things.
Yeah.
I think when you're a coach, you look through the eyes of the lens and you say, this is what's important, and this is what I need to do to be ready for today, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes media is just, at the end of the day, it's a necessary evil, right? Don't treat people bad, like guys in the media, but like I'm not gonna, I don't need, an extra 30 minutes to
that wasn't you.
So to speak. I didn't really need to do that. I need to worry about this. Yeah. Well, I would say this, flip the script this time around and kind of redo it, and I would say this, it's not a necessary evil. It's an opportunity to always, not only, sell yourself, sell your players, but like part of it is like treating people even better than you ever have in the past comes around full circle, and I think at the end of the day, that experience with working with you guys last year, you get a lot more respect for the, that side of it. It's hard business. But, to be honest with you, dealing with some of the coaches and players we dealt with last year, there's, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay.
And you saw it from a different side.
I got it.
A little bit, right?
Have some fun with this thing.
And the coaches that were good and the coaches that might not have been quite as accessible.
You saw the guys that, quite frankly, knew they're like, this is good. This is good to do.
You got one down the road here.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anybody better than Cooley? Is there anybody better than Cooley in dealing with the media?
I think he's a great person, but he gets that side of it. He's great with the media. He's good with people.
You guys just got to act like you hate each other at times, though.
Who, Ed?
Yeah, you and Ed. I mean, you have to on December 5th, 6th, whatever that date is.
That's
Saturday.
December 3rd. Yeah.
December 3rd. Sorry, December 3rd. Yeah. I mean, you got to at least fake it and act like you hate Ed Cooley.
I'll throw a ball at him or something.
Yeah, do something. I mean, whatever it is.
We'll give him a blow-by.
You should. Right at the beginning, see what he does. And he'll be like, what the hell did I do?
We'll give him a blow-by.
It would throw him off. I mean, if he thought you didn't like him for that game, he might be all screwed up in the head.
Yeah. I tell you what, I think Ed, like any coach, once the ball's tipped up, I think he's going to go as hard as he possibly can to beat you.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? If he may feel bad at the end of the game, maybe the game got out of control, maybe got mad. I think he'd call like 15 minutes after the game.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, just from a personal level, I mean, there's very few guys in this business that are like authentically real. He is one of them. This whole PC, the whole PC, URI thing.
Yeah.
I'll get the hang of that.
You'll have fun with it.
Yeah.
You will.
Get the hang of that.
I think one of the beauties to me of you and Sean doing Field of 68 last year was people getting to know you better. I said that beforehand, and I firmly believe, and I think it was good for you guys. Like, I think you knew it too. The coaching fraternity, people calling
guarded.
you.
You're guarded.
Right.
Sometimes you're guarded, whether it be your own, whatever it may be. But as a coach, I think a lot of times you're guarded. I think me being young in the business, you become the head coach at University of Dayton at 32. Okay, not a lot of people understand what that's like.
Right.
You get 13,000 people at every game. At the time we took over, I think they had a couple tournaments in 15 or 20 years. They wanted to do more. At 32 years old, you feel pressure. And a lot of times you're trying your ass off to win.
Yeah.
And like for me,
and you're more of a ball coach.
Yeah,
that's kind of how you were.
Kind of like
right.
I'm trying to figure this thing out, and you get another job. There's a little pressure to win. You know what I mean? So like, I don't want to say that every job doesn't have pressure, but like, there's a lot on my mind at times. I took it, and
you had two. Yeah, you had two that the fan, and a third now.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had three. The beauty for you, blessing or a curse, but you've had three where the fan support is out of control.
Yeah.
At each of them.
Yeah, you want that.
Yeah, you'd much rather have that than a place that doesn't care, right?
No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you're the coach of a basketball program, the thing you depend on the most is your fans. Right. You depend on that support. You depend on that home court. You depend on the momentum. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think nowadays when you're recruiting, it's even more so, an important thing. But I had fun with it. I mean, I loved Mama Hogg.
We had some moments, didn't we?
I love Mama Hogg. I love John Fanta. We had a lot of fun with a lot of. I mean, honestly, some of the things that didn't go on the camera, the conversations, the text threads and stuff. I mean, just regular people, but you're having a good time with it.
Yeah.
And to me, it relaxed us. It relaxed me in dealing with media, wanting to be,
a little more open
a
now.
bit more.
Right. Which I think, again, I mean, listen, you're human. And I think what you went through at the end of Indiana was difficult.
It's difficult for anybody when you're struggling.
Right.
Whether you're struggling as a player,
but you had never dealt with that.
No.
As a head coach,
not as
right at Dayton.
Not as a head coach. I mean, you're an assistant and you're on staffs where your boss is feeling heat.
Yeah.
It's way different, when you're, dealing. I think the thing that inevitably always comes into play is the wear and tear on your own family.
Yeah.
The wear and tear on, people you don't even think are paying attention, after a while. Just at the.
And your daughter is a teenage girl. You're worried about
her.
And
I think that stuff plays a role, in making the next decision.
Right.
It plays a role in how you approach things in the next place you go. And I think one of the great things about this place is I do think we have crazy fans. I do think that we're up here with a passionate fan base. I do think we're gonna do everything we can to win. But I also think like. When I walk into my office and I see Thor walk in the door, he has a smile on his face. He's a great guy. And more than anything about getting back into this thing is you make decisions based on who you're going to surround yourself with. And I think one of the key ingredients to me getting back in was obviously having an opportunity to work here, but work for Thor.
Yeah, it was good today to see you back at work. You know what I mean? Back in your comfort zone. Listen, it's great. We'll have you on Field of 68 anytime you want.
Yeah.
All right, anytime. You got an off night, you're bored, you're just sitting around, you don't want to watch tape.
I'm excited. I'm excited to listen to you guys.
Uh-oh.
Now, I'm not invited to the conversation, so I get to listen to you on the outside. And I can bang away at you all I want.
You're gonna be texting, right? You're gonna be killing us.
Completely whacking you guys after you make your outlandish statements And
I won last night.
And 2 weeks later,
Did you see one last night?
flip.
You know what?
Last night you picked
UCLA to win the whole thing.
To win the whole thing.
And I went to Arizona, so I'm already getting some crap.
You know, first of all, with all the Pac-12 slander.
Oh, you remember?
All the
At least we
Pac-12
teamed up last
slander,
year.
With all the Pac-12 slander out there, for
But I
you
went
to go that
UCLA.
direction,
I did.
I think shows that you got some guts. Who did Dauster pick?
I don't know. I don't think he's picked his national title yet.
Did he pick the Huskies? UConn?
He can't.
Why?
I mean, he could.
He could.
He could. He could.
He's a diehard.
He probably will. He probably will.
Who'd Fanta pick?
I mean, it'd be somebody from the Big East.
Providence, probably, right?
Probably still be Villanova, right?
I don't know. Maybe
Cooley, yeah, without Jay Wright,
it's definitely somebody in the Big East.
definitely. Probably right. It'd probably Providence, no matter what. We got to get Fanta here to the Ryan Center for a game, though. Got to.
I'm thinking that I can get him down here.
I think you can, too. I think you can. I mean, if you give him a good meal, that's the key for Fanta. There's plenty of good meals here.
Matt, I'll tell you one thing. I can't explain to you the quality of restaurant food in not just New England, but
Listen, when I leave
Rhode
you,
Island.
I'm going to Newport.
Narragansett,
Oh,
Providence.
I know, big time.
Unbelievable
But you
food.
got to invite me to the Miller Mansion at some point.
I'm the only one in it.
And you got plenty of room. Plenty of room.
There's nothing in it.
You don't have furniture. You got a little bit of furniture?
Your
wife made you get furniture.
She took care of it, and I did get a bed. We do have a couch. I do have a couch to sit on.
TVs. You better have TVs.
A couple TVs. But
That's all you
need. That place isn't going to be full functional until
They get in.
Until they get in.
Right,
It's
no
not-
doubt,
but
because you can't.
It's an unbelievable spot. Next time you come into town, I'll get you set up.
Well, I'm gonna finish this with one thing. The better interviewer in the Goodman family is who?
Your daughter,
Not even close, right?
Talia. Yeah,
Not
she
even
does a
close.
much better job.
Yeah.